Alright, so today we're talking about Resident Evil 6, and first of all, the fact that I've made like 3 videos, I think, on Resident Evil 6 over the past 2 weeks, and all of them have been received quite well, and people who are big fans of this game have come out and spoke about how they like it, and, characters they enjoy and stuff like that. It's been good. I think since Capcom have kind of acknowledged this game a couple of times recently by, like, literal name and character, like, terms, like, it's fully been mentioned. People who are fans of the game and people who maybe aren't fans of the game have been a bit more vocal about it, and it's good to see, a game that most people would consider one of the worst, have such a kind of big fan base around it. And I do have things I like to say about Resident Evil 6, and this video is not going to in any way kind of dump on Resident Evil 6 either. I do want to talk about the game in a positive light, because at the end of the day, this is a canon game, so if you haven't played it, I would recommend doing so. But it's not a terrible game by any stretch of the imagination. Resident Evil 6 is not a bad game. So we're going to talk about it today and go into some things. So I remember when this game came out years ago, and a friend of mine and me had not long, recently started playing the franchise. So we kind of started playing around Resident Evil 4, 5 time. I think 5 was out and we played like 4 and 5 like first. So I kind of joined later on, and remember Resident Evil 6 came out. Very exciting, and we pretty much played the entire thing in the weekend, did every campaign, fully co-op, and we both said at the time, that Resident Evil 6 was a more fun game to play compared to 5. While I do prefer 5 as a game, I've always preferred 5 as a game compared to 6, and as you probably know if you're familiar with my channel, that I absolutely love Resident Evil 5. So, 6 is not better than 5 for me, but it is a more fun game to play. I do kind of want to talk about that now. So with Resident Evil 5, obviously you had co-op, okay, and the AI was not the best, and you could die and get yourself killed or use healing like at the wrong time, and it was a bit of a struggle to deal with the AI. Now obviously with RE5 and 6, the games are co-op, and probably more so made to be played in co-op. To me, I've always felt like between 5 and 6 that 5 is more, although the AI kind of sucks, it's more manageable to play and more enjoyable to play solo compared to playing Resident Evil 6 solo. And I think that just purely comes down to the gameplay of 6 being very fluid compared to 5. Obviously Resident Evil 5 plays very much like OG Resident Evil 4, where you obviously have to kind of stand still and shoot and reload. You got a laser that is essentially your crosshair, and it keeps, it's not fully obviously tank controls, but it keeps that kind of style going, and I like that, I prefer that. But with Resident Evil 6, the AI is better. They can't die in silly ways. They can still die obviously, but not like constantly. They won't try and heal you at ridiculous points or anything like that, so it's more manageable. But I think with just the moment-to-moment gameplay of RE6, having a person to play it with was always better for me. Like, I don't have footage for these moments specifically, but if I mention them, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, there's a moment in Jake's campaign where you're on a bike, and one of you drives, and one of you shoots off the back. That doesn't have the same kick playing solo, because if you're playing Sherry, you're just shooting. If you're playing Jake, you're just driving. Like, having both of you do it at the same time, very cool. There's a moment in Chris's campaign where you're in jets, and again, that is completely over the top and definitely not a Resident Evil thing, but it's better with someone else doing it, There are definitely moments in this game where, it's a bit more awkward to deal with, and, there's certain sections I remember where, you kind of have to pay attention. Like, there's one specifically with the Leon campaign early on in the underground, and we were obviously just playing and messing around and whatnot, and you have to dodge these trains by like pressing a certain combination of buttons at the same time, and it was always one of us that was messing it up. And obviously there's game over you, and it's like, okay, the AI wouldn't do that wrong. So there is moments where it's more, paying attention, but it is so funny just to have those moments happen with someone else rather than just dying by yourself and going, wow, okay, I'm an idiot because the AI did it and I didn't. Like, the game's just better to play with people. So with Resident Evil 6 itself, now obviously you've got your 4 campaigns. One, obviously being the Ada campaign, feels more like a solo campaign, because when you do play it in co-op, you do just have the second player play as like agent, and it's, you know, they're not really there in like the cutscenes and stuff, so it's definitely more of a solo campaign. But 3 campaigns, obviously Chris, Jake, and Leon. I've always considered Chris's campaign as the least favourite, personally, apart from the very, very end, which is pretty cool if you're playing as peers. No spoilers. I don't know if people may like that one more than me. Let me know, obviously, if you prefer Chris's campaign to the rest. Jake's campaign is probably the most interesting, because obviously new character, you know, big ties to, you know, the biggest villain of the franchise and stuff like that. Very interesting story-wise, but I've always kind of preferred Leon's campaign in terms of like actually playing the game. Not only does it start out as more of a zombie game for the first like chunk of it, which is very cool. I just think the moment-to-moment gameplay is good. The final boss fight can be a bit ridiculous, especially with like Simmons turning into all different animals, like a T-Rex at one point. It does get a bit silly, but I think that's just the whole game gets a bit silly at times. In terms of other things I'm not a big fan of, is there definitely seems to be filler in this game at some points, where certain moments from certain campaigns overlap. Now I get it, because the characters cross paths at that point in the game, but you know, having to play the same bit essentially, you know, twice per campaign. I think the one with the most overlap is definitely Jake's, and there's 2 boss fights specifically where you have to do them again. On Jake's campaign, if you've done Leon and Chris before, they're the same fight. But that's, you know, it's only a few times it happens. I do think there should have been an option to kind of skip it if you've done it already, or just maybe get a cutscene instead. But you know, they're good fights, so I don't mind doing them again. It's just, it feels like they're just in there to pad out the length. But no, I think Resident Evil 6 as a game is solid. I've always kind of enjoyed playing it. Whenever I do go back to play it, I always forget like just how fun certain moments are. The game is full of mechanics. Like, there's so many things you can do and mess around with in the game. It's quite fun. There's a plethora of multiplayer options as well, agent hunt and survivors and stuff like that, and I'm not sure if they're active anymore. I'll have to kind of check at some point, so if anyone's interested in that stuff, let me know. But they are there. And obviously you've got Mercenaries, and Mercenaries in Resident Evil 6 I think is very fun. And again, it's just down to the gameplay of the game. The game plays so well, and again, Mercenaries having that multiplayer option, it really does make the game a lot more fun. There's a lot to do. Again, with this game, much better to play this one with somebody else rather than playing with the AI. The AI is much more manageable, like I've said, but it's just a moment-to-moment gameplay. It's more fun, and I have more memories of playing through this game with a friend rather than playing it through with just the AI with me. Now, in terms of 6, any kind of remake and stuff like that, I think if it was to be happening, it's a long way out, right? I think there are plenty more games that deserve it more than this one. Obviously Code Veronica and Zero seem to be the next 2 that are happening. And me, being me, I do want to see a 5 remake happen, which I'm hoping is the case eventually, hopefully. But even before 5, you know, there's plenty of other games that, you know, I feel like do need some treatment. Like, personally speaking, there's something I've been thinking about recently, with Alyssa being in Requiem to some degree. Maybe it's time to remake Outbreak. You know, make it a multiplayer Resident Evil game, you know, from years ago, more modernized, and you know, have that option for people, because Outbreak is a solid game, and it's a shame that not many people have played those games. But yeah, I mean, overall, Resident Evil 6, it's not as bad as everyone says it is. Don't take the internet's opinion of this game as fact. The way I've always kind of looked at Resident Evil 6 is the game's great, the game's fun. Is it a good Resident Evil game? Probably not. Like, it's definitely, you know, it strayed too far from that. But you know, if you take the game as it is, play it as it is, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. And obviously there are people that really enjoy this game, so I'd love to hear people's thoughts on Resident Evil 6 down in the comments. You know, tell me some experiences you've had with the game. Have you played it? Do you like it? Do you not? Let me know. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for the support on all the videos mentioning Resident Evil 6. I'm very surprised that they've done as well as they have. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one.